faces. I know I saw your guys smelling people, which is no surprise there. It's something we've been doing for a year now. But again, thank you all so much for coming. I was like literally texting into the group chat I have with all of my students that are here today, and literally I was like, who's going to show up? Who's going to show up? And then I literally saw people walk in, and I was like, people! So if you do not know who I am, if you're like, who is, oh, she was good. So if you are wondering who the heck I am, my name is Evie and I am a former VTuber, a current streamer, and a vocal coach. You may have seen me around on Twitter. I am basically the VTuber vocal coach. I have taught over 20 VTubers since I opened my studio specifically for VTubers in 2021. And if you're wondering, ma'am, what are your qualifications? What makes you entitled to talk about singing and all that jazz? Well, I have a degree. I have a degree in music education. I've performed with various choirs. I've done a lot of solo work. I've also conducted a few children's choirs, as well as youth orchestras. My current job is I'm a band and orchestra director at 2 different elementary schools. And at the end of the day, though, I love working with VTubers. I get to sing a lot of songs that I would never dream of singing, much less teaching in my formal education. And I just get to work on a lot of really cool projects, and that's why I wanted to do this panel. I wanted to give people kind of an idea of some things that they can do to improve their singing. So what this panel is meant to be is kind of an overview of some of the most common mistakes I see across all of my students when they first start. And when I say all my students, I teach from a variety of skill levels, from people who have been singing for 5 or 6 years to people who are just starting to learn how to match pitch. But believe it or not, some of these mistakes span across that. So today you are going to walk out of here, my goal is that you are going to walk out of here with some things you can implement to make your singing better today, and also some things that you can work towards and build toward. Now, I don't want to make assumptions, but are we okay with singing as a group? Is that okay?
Yeah!
Okay, I love it! Okay, cool. So, the first thing, here are the most common mistakes I see within my students is a lot of students I found do not warm up, or they don't know how to warm up. I have a lot of students that struggle with posture, breathing, vowels, and also chest, head, and mixed voice awareness. And if some of these terms, if you are a complete newbie to singing, you may not recognize some of these terms. Some of you might be like, oh, that's easy peasy, that's easy money. Wherever you are, I am absolutely willing to explain things, and I will take questions at the end. So, lack of warm-up is one of the most common things I see with a lot of my students across the board. So, the analogy I use, we're going to go on a limb here. I'm going to say some of us are gamers, but the metaphor I use a lot of times with my VTuber students is when you're playing like a competitive game. How many of you play like League or Apex or Valorant or anything like that? Show of hands.
Right here.
You can make fun of me. I'm a League of Legends player. Everyone bullies me for it. You can laugh, take your time. Ha ha ha. Oh, and I can't wait to tell my boyfriend. I'm like, he's gonna be like, how'd your panel go? I'm gonna be like, everyone make fun of me for being a League player, and he's not gonna be like, oh, he's gonna be like, good. So is the first game of the day is your best performance. I always say shit like, oh, it's a warm-up game. It's a warm-up game. Your voice is the same. Do not get discouraged if when you're doing warm-ups. So many times I have students will be warming up, I'll be at my keyboard, and they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, that sounds so weird. Oh my god. That's the point. The purpose of warming up is to get all those ickies out, is to make your voice ready. Don't worry if you sound bad, and bad really is a subjective term. You might get some sounds up, it might be a little bit weird, but that's why we warm up. And the biggest thing too I see with a lot of my students that are warming up, a lot of times I see students that are just doing like the same 3 warm-ups. Scales are great, arpeggios are great, but if those are the only things you're doing, you're not warming up all parts of your voice. So here's what I want us to do. We're all gonna warm up our voices today, okay? So first step is jaw exercises. So here's the thing. A lot of music, something I tell all my beginner students is you gotta open your mouth. You're not gonna get good sound if you're singing like, oh god, what's something I can sing? That everybody knows. Oh my gosh, let's see. Can't turn back time, I'll always be. I can sound good, I can have good tone and resonance, but my mouth isn't very open, right? If I open up my mouth more, can't turn back time, I'll always be. super, super wide. So a lot of times I'll tell students to rub right here, sort of by your chin. Just kind of like rub this section of your chin right here. Just kind of don't be afraid to like really stretch it out. Sometimes I do like things like this, like moving my jaw back and forth. It is weird to talk while doing that. Oh my gosh. And also just being super open. I always tell people, open your mouth as much as you can, and then open it more. That sometimes is how we want to be, how we want to feel when we're singing. We want to have that good, like nice openness, because the more openness we have, the better we'll sound. The biggest comparison I can make to this is a violin is not going to be as loud as a double bass, okay? The reason a double bass is louder is because it's bigger. The resonance chamber of the double bass is bigger than the violin's is. The same goes for your voice. If your mouth isn't open and you're singing like this, your sound is not going to vibrate as much. You're not going to have as much resonance. That's what your mouth is. It's a resonance chamber. But when you open up, then your resonance chamber is bigger, and then you can get more sound out. So the first exercise I would like us to do together, do together is, let me know real quick, can you hear my piano? Oh my gosh, never mind, it's not turned on. There we go.
Yeah. We're good.
How's that sound?
We're good.
Good, okay, cool. So, first thing I would like us to all do is let's hum. We're gonna start right here on C, sing whatever, or hum whatever octave is most comfortable for you. So a lot of times, what we're gonna do is just humming can really help warm up your vocal cords, get those vibrations going without putting a lot of strain on. So, just hum with me. I'll go first, then you follow. Your turn. Beautiful. One more, let's go. Oh my God. Let's try that again. We have like some like sort of diminished chord going on. I don't know what that was. Excellent. Now, like I said, what that does is it warms up your vocal cords. Your vocal cords, the way music happens, the way singing happens, we'll talk more about this in depth later, is your vocal cords are vibrating against each other, okay? All sound, regardless of instrument, singing, all sound comes from a vibration. Now, another way you can warm up your vocal cords that's a little bit more fun to do is something called lip trills. Raise your hand if you know what a lip trill is. Raise your hand if you know what a lip trill is. I don't see a lot of hands, and that pleases me because I do this to a lot of my students. I tell them, I'll show them what to do, and they'll look at me and they'll say, huh? You want me to do what? Because a lip trill is just going like this. So, that's why a lot of my students, they see me do that and they're like, so that's what I want us to try doing together. So you're just kind of like making, not quite horse noises, not like I don't know what that was, but that's what we're doing. We're letting our lips vibrate against each other. So let's try the same thing. We'll start a little bit higher. We'll actually go where we left off. And let's try it now on a lip trill. Go ahead. I gotta tell you, hearing a whole crowd go really just made my day. Let's keep going.
You're welcome.
Good. One more. This is wonderful because you know what I'm hearing? The first one we did when we were down here, we weren't as like in sync together, but when we got up to here, or I'm sorry, that was a minor gross. We sounded a lot more together. Do you feel like we're a bit more in tune with each other now?
Sure.
It sounds like we're more in tune with each other. It sounds like we're a choir. I love it. So, that's humming, that's lip trills. The next warm-up I do a lot is exaggerated yawns or singing on a yawn. Now, I am the type of person where if I don't know something, I don't like to ask questions, which is hilarious because I'm a teacher. But I went through like 2 or 3 years of vocal music, and they would tell me, Evie, you need to be lifting your soft palate when you sing. Make sure your soft palate is singing, or is lifted when you sing. I didn't know what that was, and I I was just too afraid to ask, but now I know. So your soft palate, what I want you to do is I want you to like put your tongue at the roof of your mouth. Feel how it's like really hard right behind your teeth? Now scoot your tongue back and feel like you should feel a part of your mouth that's like squishy. It goes from hard to squishy. Do you feel that?
All right.
That's your soft palate. So the front is your hard palate, the back is your soft palate. When you lift your soft palate, you have more room, that sound has more room to vibrate. We don't really lift our soft palate a whole lot in our day-to-day, but one way that we lift our soft palate is by yawning. Now it's like, what, 7 p.m. over there? I'm coming to you from EST, so I'm like, it's late for me, but what I want us to do, just do it with me, give me like your biggest, most dramatic yawn, just, like super dramatic. Think about the shape your mouth is making, and sting on that. Let's go over here. Watch me first, and then do it with me. Try singing on that yawn. Good. One more, just so we can get used to it. Now here's what I want us to do. We're going to do the same thing. I want you to keep that shape you're making with your mouth, that yawn shape, but now take out the yawn sound. So instead of going, we're going to bring our voice back to the front. Now sing without the yawn sound on a nice ah sound. Go ahead. Yeah, so when you lift that soft palate, that'll help you project more. That'll help you get more sound out and clearer sound. Now these next ones are going to go by pretty fast. Sirens are very fun, but I have a lot of students who live with their parents or they live in small apartments and they won't do sirens with me, because what sirens are is helping you practice your super, super low notes and your super, super high notes. Not a lot of people can wake up in the morning and sing all the way up there, right? I know I sure as hell can. But what I can do is I can be a little silly and go, woo! What you're doing is you're going from a super, super low pitch to a super, super high pitch, and you're making that kind of like ambulance noise. So try it with me, ready? Now let's see if we can go all the way up and back down. Now that's the thing, is I might play notes up here, or even higher. And you might look at me and you might be like, Evie, there's no way in hell I can hit those notes. But with sirens, you can. So if you can sing it in a weird, silly way, you can sing it in a nice, pretty way. I love that. I really hope, is there a piano room next to us?
No.
Oh, okay, because I was about to be like, if there are, they're good. Okay, so next thing, these are some breathing exercises. We'll go more in depth with these later. Hissing and sizzles. So when you're practicing with your breath, thinking about breath control, something you want to think about is adding resistance to your breath. Okay, your breath doesn't just get better by breathing. Okay, we breathe every day. But the way you build your breath support is by adding resistance. So when we do stuff like hissing, can I hear everyone hiss? Very good. What you're doing is you're putting resistance on your breath. It's harder to get that breath out. So adding that layer of resistance makes it so you're starting to strengthen your breath so that it can do more. It can be more powerful. What I always say is your lungs are muscles. Singing is a full body sport. We can't just wake up one day and run a marathon, right? We gotta warm up. We gotta train our muscles. You got arm day. You got leg day. We got lung day, okay? Doing those things builds your lung muscles. It makes it so they can expand more. And then, I'm not gonna do this again because we kind of already did it. Scales. If you were a choir kid, you know all about that. And I know there's some choir kids in here. Are there choir kids in here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yeah. I'm a band director, so I have to make fun of everybody. So, scales, we've done a lot of them, but that's the nice thing about scales is you can do them with all these different techniques. Even with like hissing, like you can do that too with scales. So a lot of scales are used in combination with these other exercises, so you're targeting 2 things. But we just did a whole variety of things. If we just did scales, our voice would not be warmed up all the way. And these are just some examples. There's tons more warm-ups out there, but these are just some basics. So, do I have our Phoebe and Yaru here?
Woo! Wait, can you see us?
Y'all wanna, can I borrow you real quick? Can y'all come up here? So, Phoebe and Yaru are both students of mine. Phoebe I taught back in the summer, and Yaru I actually just started with. We are in like 3 lessons. Hey y'all. So, I was hoping y'all could help me model good singer's posture. Now, I really like this diagram because we have like our good example, but some of the bad examples are really out there. Like, I know we've all seen art of an anime girl suffering from lumbar lordosis.
We've all seen it.
Can we please all take a moment to pray for the anime girls with lumbar lordosis? I hope they're doing okay. But singer's posture is very, very important. I don't know about you, but I have this nice big gamer chair. Okay, when I'm gaming, I don't have good singer's posture. I like to sit like this. I like to be kind of
Let's
Freaking goblin!
Singer's posture. If you're sitting like this, or if you're hunched over, even if you don't have your feet on the ground, what you're doing is you're making sure your air doesn't have an easy way to come out of your body. Because what's happening like this, it's almost like you're adding roadblocks to basically your air. Instead of it having a nice smooth ride, it's going all like this. So can I have everybody stand up actually? I'll stand up with you too. I'll stand up. We're all in this together, okay? Okay. So posture will make a world of difference for you. The first step, and if my lovely ladies in the front can help me do this with me. Feet slightly apart on the floor. That's kind of easy for you in person. That's more directed for the people that will see these slightly apart. You want your legs to be straight, but your knees to be slightly bent. Because if your knees aren't bent, you will pass out. I'm a double bass player. I locked my knees one time during a competition, and I fell straight on the floor with a double
go!
Not good.
Is that something
We know
you
the struggle.
So
We
you
know the
don't
struggle.
pass out and die. So, you also want your hips facing straight and forward. We don't want any of this. We don't want any of this. We want to be nice and straight. Make sure your spine is aligned. That's just a fancy way of saying keep a straight back. Don't give me one of these. I know we kind of did. I know conventions are up, but don't give me one of those. Make sure your stomach is flat. We don't want to like pretending we're like with child. We want to be like this and flat. Keep your chest comfortably forward. I almost said forward. What the hell word is that? So keep it nice and forward. We don't want to be like what? You know, we want to be nice, comfortable. Your arms are going to be, your shoulders are going to be down and back. I'm going to need my ladies to demonstrate this one because I'm like doing all kinds of weird yoga to try to fit within my camera. So
your shoulders back.
if your shoulders, when you move your shoulders back, because we're talking about lungs, what that does is it's opening up your rib cage, okay? Because your rib cage is like really cool and all, it like protects your lungs, but it kind of, how do I say this nicely?
away.
This isn't an 18 plus panel, so I can't make the joke I want to make, but it kind of holds your lungs back. So when we move our shoulders back a little bit, that lets our rib cage open up a little bit, so our lungs have a little bit more room to work. Also, you just want your head facing forward, because if you're sitting down like this, is your sound going to project well?
No.
Yeah, no it's not. So, can I see beautiful singing posture for my ladies? Ladies, is the crowd giving you good posture? It looks like they are, but is all of them?
Judge us.
I better not see any bitches with lumbar lordosis. I will lose my mind.
For beginners, I think they're good.
Okay, we're good?
Yeah.
Hold up.
For beginners,
Awesome.
they're good.
Okay. We got a good crowd tonight. I like it. Okay. But posture is the first step. There are so many things that are just easily fixed by just me being like, bring your shoulders down. Sit up straight. It makes a world of a difference, okay? So, next thing I would like to talk about is breathing exercises. Now, here's the thing with breathing exercises. How many of you have heard about sing from your diaphragm? Raise your hand if you've heard that phrase before. Sing from your diaphragm. Keep your hand up if you know what the hell that means. Okay, I saw a few hands go down. So, here's the thing. What the heck is a diaphragm? That's a phrase that's used a lot. Sing from your diaphragm. I mean, they don't tell us what it means. So, we breathe every day, okay? We breathe just naturally. You might be limiting yourself when you're singing because you're singing, or you're breathing and singing the the way you breathe in your day-to-day life. And the thing is, you can't breathe in singing the same way that you do when you're talking. A lot of singers, beginner singers I see, they're singing from their throat or breathing from their throat instead of down in their belly area. Proper breathing technique can make so much difference because not only are you eliminating vocal strain, but your voice is going to be stronger because a strong supported breath is a strong supported voice. So, science! Okay, so from a physical standpoint, singing is when something called phonation occurs. That's a big fancy word. I'm not very good at words, that's why I was a music major, but it's called phonation. When air passes through vocal folds in your larynx, which is like all the way, it kind of shows you, but unfortunately my face is blocking the way. It's kind of like right down here. When air passes through your larynx, your vocal folds will vibrate, right? We talked about that before. That vibration of your vocal folds doing this thing, that's what causes singing. However, if your larynx is lowered or raised too much, that's going to cause strain in your breath. And strain in your breath means strain in your voice. Therefore, we cannot breathe for singing the same way we do in our daily life. Okay, we have to make sure that we're at this standard position. A lot of times I see people, they reach up like this, or they're like down like this, and that's going to mean not a supported breath. Singing is not the same as talking. You're going to see me echo this sentiment a lot, okay? So, more science. Wow, so cool.
Yay.
So, for many years, a lot of people believed that singing from the diaphragm was the best way to support your voice and your breath. But here's the thing. The diaphragm is an involuntary muscle. You cannot move it, okay? You can't just be like, hello diaphragm, can you please move? Because it's not gonna, okay? What you need to be doing is singing from your pelvic floor. Now don't freak out. I'm not gonna make anybody do Kegels or anything like that. But what controlling your diaphragm means is you're controlling the muscles that cause the diaphragm to rise and relax. Okay, the muscles under the diaphragm and below the diaphragm. So the diaphragm, if you're wondering where the heck that is, because that's like a cool diagram and all, but like, I don't relate to that. I'm gonna be real with you. Your diaphragm is right over here. It's kind of in the lower tummy area. Find your diaphragm for me. Just like, give it a nice pat. Give it a nice pat. That's your diaphragm. What I want you to think about doing as we breathe, I want you to think about lifting it up and lowering it with your breath. So I'm going to turn to the side. I don't know how well this is going to come across with my skirt, but watch, see if you can see what's in here. See how when I exhale, it comes out? That's my diaphragm, okay? Let's just take some deep breaths together. Ready? With me? Inhale. Exhale. One more time, inhale. And exhale. So that's where we want to sing from. We want to feel the weight of our voice in our core. Okay, we don't want to feel it in our throat. We don't want to sing from our throat. We want to sing from our core. Singing is a full body sport, okay? We have to be, a lot of people think singing is just from here up. It's not true. It is, you need to be fully engaged with all parts of your body, okay? So, how the hell do I do all that? How the hell do I fix all that? Again, first step is posture. A lot of the things that we're going to talk about tonight build on top of each other. If we're not sitting or standing correctly, our breath is going to suffer, and engaging those muscles is going to be a lot more difficult. There is something I want to talk about called singing on the breath. And Phoebe, would you be able to help me demonstrate this?
Yes.
Cool. So, singing on the breath, essentially, what I see a lot of people do at the beginning is I'll be like, okay, start whenever you're ready. We'll be like, okay. Da-da-da-da-da. They stutter themselves, okay? Singing on the breath is when you inhale, you sing on your exhale, okay? You sing on your exhale. You're letting your voice drive when you sing, okay? Your breath is guiding your voice. So Phoebe, if you could do me a favor, pick an excerpt from, I think you were talking about singing the song from Belle today.
Yes.
Pick an excerpt from that, and what I would like you to do is show me what it's like to sing on the breath. And see if you can get that hand motion of your inhale and your exhale as you start singing as with that exhale. Could you do that for me?
Okay.
Thank you.
なななななやまない愛を知りたいと願うおまじない時を越えて朝から夜までそう
Very good. Give her a round of applause. breath guide her voice. And that's the thing I see a lot. Don't be afraid to stop and restart. If you feel like you're not ready, just start over. Don't try to force yourself to get going because you're losing that breath. You're not going to have as strong of a start. So, another thing I see with a lot of just my beginner students or just students in general is I'll tell them to take a big, deep breath, and they'll do this. Now, there's a few reasons why we don't want that. You want to keep your breath nice and relaxed. When you do things like this, you're actually using more energy in taking the breath than you're putting out when you're singing. You're having a net loss, okay? So you want to make your breath nice and relaxed. You still want to be deep, just like those deep diaphragm breaths we did earlier, but you need to make sure it's relaxed. And again, think of breathing from your belly. You don't want to feel your voice up here, but you want to feel it down here in your tummy. Okay, so Yora, my good bitch, are you here with me?
Go! I am in the room with you.
Okay, so Yora is here to help me demonstrate some breathing exercises. So the first exercise I would like us to practice together is, well, why don't we do some hissing, Yora? So here's what I want you to try to do. Is we'll hiss on a scale. Just, actually, let's do it rhythmically. Yora, I want you to repeat after me. So, nice and relaxed breath, Yora. Nice and relaxed breath, okay? Okay. Very good. Now, a big thing we've talked about, and Yora, I don't know if you're going to be able to help with this one because you're too deep. Bro, you gotta let me. Oh, okay, fine. So, a big thing we've talked about is adding resistance to the breath because that makes it easier to sing. Have you, raise your hand if you've heard of the straw technique? A few of us have, okay. So, I don't know if you're gonna be able to help out with this one because you're 2D and all. I don't know if you have like a straw with you or anything like that because you're anime girl. So what you're going to do is you're going to sing into your straw. So Yora, you and everyone in Studio Pro just did a wonderful set. Could you pick like a phrase from one of the songs you sang today? I'm a little bit biased towards your national anthem, I'm going to be honest. Okay. And can you sing that into your straw? Okay. I got this. I can make a color in the summer and when we are from nothing to and to make the family pay and their respect. So, let's give Yora a round of applause. Very touching. That's the nice thing about this job is I get to say, people ask me, what are you working on with your students? And I can say, oh, I'm working on Ram Ranch. It's a classic American folk tune right there. So, what I want you to try now is singing the same thing, but now without the straw. Oh yeah. 1880 cowboys in the showers. I see you now, just don't cover your face for me. Big hot dog, big muscles, 1 and 2 B flex. 1880 cowboys paying their respect. So, I gotta ask you a question, Yora. Did you feel resistance when you sang it with a straw? Did it feel more difficult to sing? Yeah. When you took the straw, yeah, because you got this one on. But when you took the straw away, did you feel like you had more control over your voice, more support? Yeah, definitely. So that's something you can all try at home. Now, I'm not expecting everyone in the audience to just have a straw. And if you do, shout out to you, but I'm not gonna go there. But that's the thing, is your added resistance, and then once the resistance is taken away, it feels easier. That's how you build that support. Support is by adding and then taking away resistances. Now, again, like I said before, we kind of already touched on the hissing, but whenever you have a song, you can hiss parts of it, like, and then that also is the same way of adding resistance. Okay? So, Yora, can we please give you a round of applause for helping me? I started taking lessons with her. She started taking lessons with me about a year ago, and we have had some of the funniest sidebars in lessons that I could ever think of. I would love to tell a story, but I can't because this is not.
I know one. John F. Kennedy.
We're not talking about the JFK bit. We're not talking about that. That's you, sentences. If you take lessons with me, I will shitpost with you. That's just, I really need to learn my TOS. But again, thank you so much, Yoro, for helping us showcase some. Alright, let's move on to vowels, okay? So, the biggest thing that I said we talk about, we're circling back to this again. Singing is not like talking, okay? So, for singing in any language, Japanese, English, whatever, the most important vowels are e, a, I, o, and u, or a, e, I, o, and u. E and o, or I'm sorry, E and I are pronounced in the front of the mouth. Here's the thing. If we were to sing, oh my gosh, what's the word? Well, just the word sing. Sing. When we say the word sing, say the word sing, and think about the shape of your mouth. Sing. Sing. Is your mouth like going horizontal or vertical? Horizontal. Now, if I sing the way I'm talking, if I say, I love to sing, is that a very clear tone?
No.
No. Now, if I flip it instead and make it vertical, I love to sing, that's a lot more clear, right? So we have to flip those vowels. So here's what I want to go over. Phoebe, can I bring you back to the front again? How are you again?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, my dear. So here's the thing. If a lot of times in singing, because of these vowel shapes, we kind of have to change words around. Sometimes if we were to speak the words that we were singing, they wouldn't sound normal, okay? We might have to flip some words around. So, Phoebe, I want you to think about that same excerpt you sang earlier. And I want you to try singing it as if you were speaking it. Sing it as if you were speaking it.
Bad example. See, I can't even get it out.
It feels weird, right?
Yeah.
And Phoebe and I have talked a lot about vowels, so I'm glad that feels weird to you. But that's the thing, is if we sing the way we speak, that might feel natural to us, but that tone's not going to be the same. Watch Phoebe's mouth. Phoebe, I want you to sing it again the way you normally do, and think about, is her mouth more horizontal or vertical? Try it again. Sorry.
Okay.
So was her mouth more horizontal shaped or vertical shaped? Raise your hand if you think it was more horizontal shaped. Raise your hand if you think it was more vertical shaped.
So
So
horizontal
that's the
is
thing. Are we going to have
style.
horizontal shapes while we're singing? Yeah, it's kind of inevitable. But the more vertical we stay, the easier it'll be to sing. And that's why we have to be super open, because our teeth, if we're singing like this and we get this really nasally sound, that's because our teeth, they're blocking the breath from coming out. Even if we're horizontal and we're singing like this, that's still a lot better because we still have that room for sound to bounce around, for sound to go like this. And when sound bounces around more, we get clearer vibrations and we have a stronger tone. So make your voice more vertical, or your mouth more vertical, and you'll have a stronger tone. So o, and oo, those vowels are going to be in the back of your mouth, and they're a lot easier because it's way more natural to go like this on than it is on e. Because with e, we have to do these unnatural shapes. So getting the e vowels right is one of the toughest things. But do you think we can do it tonight?
Yeah.
I think we can. So here's what I want us to try doing. I want you to sing on a very clear. Let's do instead of doing scales, let's do arpeggios actually. Or scales and arpeggios. Let's sing first on a really clear ah. Just Does it feel? It's pretty easy to get that really like hanging open vertical mouth shape, right?
Yeah.
Now let's try it on E. Listen first. vowel formation kind of looks like a pog face. Like you kind of look like your pocket, you know, like pause in the chat, you know, that's how you want to be when you're doing those E vowels. So at the end of the day, the more open your mouth is, the better off you will be. So I'm gonna have to borrow Miss Yarn for this next one. So there are 3 registers we can sing in: the chest voice, the head voice, and the mixed voice. Your chest voice is usually going to be a little bit lower, warmer, and kind of like thicker. Normally this is your speaking voice. Your head voice is going to be super higher. You're going to kind of sound like you're in like Barbie Dreamhouse or whatever. It's not as powerful. It's very light. It's really present in your sinuses and your nose. And because of that, it can sound nasally. But what we want a lot of the time is a blend of the two. That's what we call our, that's what we call our mixed voice. This is usually felt in the back of the throat. So, Yarn, we've been working on Here Becky Rider, correct?
Yep.
Do you know what chorus you're going to be singing?
Probably first.
What was that?
First, chorus.
Cool. Can you sing this? Here's what I want you to try doing. Try singing it just in your chest voice.
生まれだけのドキドキを響かせよう最高の時間最高の仲間と
Now, try singing it now only in your head voice.
生まれだけのドキドキを響かせよう最高の時間最高の仲間と
Now, here's what I want you to try doing. Try singing it as if you're mixing your chest and your head voice. And maybe those parts where we're not as powerful, being in our chest voice or our head voice, we're really getting a nice mix when we get up there. You have this, girlfriend.
生まれだけのドキドキを響かせよう最高の時間最高の仲間とここにいるよ見つけてくれたから
So, here's the thing. Can we just sing in one register? Yes or no? Yeah. We have to blend both of them. So here's the thing, and Nara and I talk about this in lessons. A lot of times what I see students do, especially with belting, we'll get into belting more later, but a lot of times what I'll see is they use all their energy right out the gate. And then in those parts where they need more energy, when they really need that clear mix, they falter. This is something called form, okay, musical form. Musical form is basically the study of how music rises and falls, its peaks and valleys in action. You know, do you remember in like elementary school where we had to do those literacy charts where it was like rising action, climax, and then falling action?
The way
It's kind of like that. So, here's what I want you to try doing again, Yarn. Think about your building action. What do you think would be, actually, Yarn, I have a question for you. What do you think is the peak of that phrase there? What do you think is the climax of that phrase?
生まれだけのドキドキを響かせよう
Yeah. So now, try singing it again, but with those peaks and valleys in mind.
Alright. 生まれだけのドキドキを響かせよう最高の時間最高の仲間と
Yeah, so when we're not using all our energy right away, we have a much clearer voice, okay? All right, can we give Mary another round of applause? The key with all these is to be able to not just do mix even, not just do chest, not just do head, but to be able to be strong in all of them, especially have that strong, clear mix, and be able to swap between those registers. Now, how do I do that? So, something important to recognize is the points when you want to transition from one voice to another. This can be achieved through simple scales or warm-up, and this is actually called your passaggio. So if I sing, I'll use myself as an example, and if I'm starting my chest voice, see how I started to falter right there? And then, that would be part of my passaggio. When I get up there, my chest voice starts to get deeper, and I want to flip up to my head voice. So, that can be something that having that vocal awareness of when you want to flip up to your head voice or flip up to your or flip down to your chest voice in terms of your range can be really, really helpful when you're kind of dissecting a song and when you're figuring out how to sing it. Knowing your passagios, knowing when to transition. A lot of times I feel like we have this thing, I'm just gonna bring this up later, but a lot of us sing unconsciously. And that's not a bad thing. I think singing unconsciously is a really big part of learning how to sing. When you're singing in your car or singing in the shower, you're not thinking about vocal quality. You're just singing to have fun. And we need that. That's good. But we need to also take the time, if we want to build our voice, to sing consciously. To think about, okay, when I get to this section, I'm going to flip up to my head voice. Okay, this is where my rises and falls are. Okay, here I need to be in my mixed voice. Knowing when those transitions to those registers are happening before they happen, so your mind and body is prepared for it. If you have that confident mixed voice though, your transitions will be a lot more confident. So, Lavi, are you here with me? Can I bring my man's Lavi?
Oh boy.
Opa! There he is! Okay, so, Lavi, what song have we been working on in lessons?
Oh crap. I'm actually angry. Oh wait, why am I angry?
I forced him to be here. He's not here.
Okay, I guess I'm doing this angry.
I'll give you like a sandwich or something as compensation. Does that sound good?
If I could find my happy face.
What is happiness?
There we go. Okay.
Now you're happy, and now I don't have to buy you a McRib and pretend you were forced to be here. Cool. So, what song were we working on in lessons, Lavi?
Yes. We were working on Crybaby by Hige Dancer.
Yes, and that is a song with a lot of belting, a lot of power. That's where we really need to have that strong mixed voice. So, Lavi, I want you to sing it just without thinking. Sing it unconsciously, okay?
Okay.
That one section, that chorus.
Alright. なぜだろう喜びよりも心地よい痛みずっしりと響いて濡れた服に舌をちしながらされきったあれやがった顔にあった笑う土砂降りの夜に
It's funny because this has happened, like this isn't just an OffKai thing, this is like every day in our lessons because of Discord latency. Like I'll be like, yay! And then I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. So, can we all get a round of applause? So, Lavi, what do you think about what you just said?
I have trouble breathing. Too much power.
Yeah, so that goes back to what we talked about with our rises and falls. So this is something I try with all my students who are working on something with power that has belting in it. I do something called loose and lazy singing. So this is, has anyone ever seen those TikToks of this girl that does like, she does like these crazy Broadway songs, but she just looks like this all the time? Has anyone seen those? It might just be me because I'm on vocal teacher TikTok. Okay, so basically what it is she sings with a totally blank expression. And what that does is, a lot of times when we sing these songs that we know are hard, that we know have these super high notes, we psych ourselves out. We make it so it's like, we're like, oh god, oh that high note's coming, oh that low note's coming, oh that fast part's coming. And we psych ourselves out. When our body is stressed, our voice is stressed. And that's why being prepared, knowing those transitions is important. So a way to kind of force yourself to not be nervous, because I gotta do it all the time, is doing something called loose and lazy singing. So Lavi, I want you to sing that again, and I want you to sing it as if you are bored out of your mind, as if you do not want to be here, as if you are like in choir, it's like 6 days before graduation, you don't want to be here, you just want to go home and play video games and watch anime or some shit. You don't want to be here. This is stupid. The Sopranos are like being bitches again. The basses don't know where the fuck we are. You're bored out of your mind. Sing that same passage. I'm sorry. To the choir kids out there, I'm so sorry. Okay. Try it again, but lazy.
Okay. なぜだろう喜びよりも心地よい痛みずっしりと響いて濡れた服に舌打ちしながらあれやかった顔にあった笑う土砂降りな夜に誓ったリベンジ
Right, so, do you have a clear idea of where you need to exert more energy? Of where you need to be in that mixed voice?
Yes.
So, now that we've identified those areas, we know now where we can get away with saving our energy and where we gotta push a little bit more. So try it again, but with conserving your energy, singing consciously, anticipating those transitions. Try it again.
なぜだろう喜びよりも心地よい痛みずっしりと響いて濡れた服に舌打ちしながらあれやかった顔にあった笑う土砂降りの夜に誓ったリベンジ
So, do you feel better about that last performance than you did maybe your first performance?
Yes.
Yes.
That's correct, so.
Good. So that's the key. We have to know when we need to exert more power. Now, here's the thing with belting. I do want to. We're not going to do that quite yet. But here's the thing with belting. Belting is one of those things where when students tell me they want to start learning how to belt, I'm like, let's take a minute. Let's take a minute, okay? Because belting unsafely is really easy to do. A lot of people don't know this, but there was actually a time where the American Choral Directors Association banned belting in singing compositions because back in the 1940s and 50s when musical theater was starting to really get popular, people didn't know if there was a safe way to belt. So all these people wanted to belt because that's what was popular, but the American Choral Directors Association was like, no, you're going to kill your voice. And a lot of times we do still see that in Broadway. We see vocal damage. We see singers, their first show, their first part of the run, they sound really, really clear, and by the end they're struggling. And that's not necessarily, that case isn't necessarily because they're belting it safely, that's because they're doing like 8 shows a week and we don't have enough swings or substitutes in Broadway, and it's a real problem. But anyway, the way we find that that belting sound, a lot of the warm-ups I use for belting is by singing on really gross syllables. Now, Flavia, you're probably going to want to step out for this one. I'm about to be really cringe. I'm about to be so cringe, my God. Oh, okay. Can we get Flavia around? He has banished himself from the eighth because he didn't want to see me be cringe on me, which is fair. So, the way I think about belting is if you can sing it on a really gross, nasally, icky pitch, you can sing it on a belt. So, the thing is, though, the pitch that I really like to use is nya. You know, nya, okay? So, the way, for all the people that did this, I love you, okay? So, here's the thing, is in order to belt, this is a warm-up I used to get ready with my belt. This is going to sound really gross, so I'm gonna do one of these moves, okay? Nya, 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 nya. Get out with me. It's simple. Nya, 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 nya. Try it again, let's go even higher. Nya, 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 nya. Nya, 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 nya. Even higher. Nya, 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 nya. Let's take the octave. Nya, 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 nya. warm-ups. The golden rule of belting is if you start to feel pain, stop. It's something that takes a lot of time to develop. There's skills that you can walk out of here and you can implement to your singing today. There's things you gotta work towards, and belting is one of them. Another trick that I do to kind of get into that belting sort of vocal placement is I speak like I'm a Disney Channel star. Like saying things like, yeah! You know, kind of like, yeah! No! Can you do that with me? Yeah! 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 Okay, just like that. That kind of vocal placement, and that's a really good skill to have, is being silly. Like, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but to learn to sing good, you gotta act like a freaking idiot, okay? Because when you do those weird voices, when you do those weird sounds, all you're doing is you're exploring vocal placement, okay? Knowing, even if we might sound weird, even if we might sound gross, knowing how to utilize different parts of our voice and different sounds is a really useful skill to have. So, y'all said you're down to sing, and I would say we're fairly warmed up. Would you say you're fairly warmed up? Yeah. Okay. So, a lot of times during workshops, sometimes people in traditional singing workshops, they'll do something like, I don't know, they'll sing something from Broadway, like from Waitress or Wicked, but this is not a traditional singing workshop. We are anime bitches on the internet. Okay, shout out to the anime bitches on the internet. So, I was like, okay, what's a song that every VTuber and VTuber fan knows? What's a song that you get everyone to sing in a workshop? Everybody called it! Oh my god! Y'all know what it is. So here's the thing. What I did is I have the lyrics on one side and I have some questions on the other side. I'm actually going to move my face a little bit. I think that's a healthy amount of Evie on the screen. I think that's the right amount. So here's the thing, is when we sing unconsciously, when we're singing, you know, just for fun, we're not thinking about these things, okay? So here are some questions you might want to ask. We're going to break it down verse by verse. I think I skipped one of the verses just for time restraints, but at the very beginning, here. You had me going reminding. If I sang that the way I spoke it, you had me going reminding. That's not good. That does not sound nice, does it? So when we have these wordy passages, especially when we have these E's and these I's, think about our vowels. Think about what sounds we are highlighting. A lot of times what I'll tell students is like, okay, focus on the vowel, let the consonant be like the cherry on top, like the sprinkles. The vowel is the ice cream, everything surrounding it is just like, we just want a little bit of it. We don't want to emphasize those I, or those K's, or those Y's, or those H's. We want to emphasize the vowel. Another question is, what register are we in? Are we in our mix? Are we in our chest? Are we in our head? What do you think we would be, what do y'all think? Are we in our chest, head, or mix for this first section?
Chest or mix?
Chest mix, yeah. And we can have like a chest mix, kind of like a chest heavy mix. That is a thing. Another thing is how do we learn lyrics if you're unfamiliar with the language? Now, I don't mean to shock you, but I am white. I do not know Japanese. I am not a native Japanese speaker. So, and I'm sure there are other people who probably are not native Japanese singers who want to sing in Japanese. So, if you want to sing in a language that's unfamiliar to you, I have to check this for me. If you want to sing in a language that's unfamiliar, yeah. Hold on, sorry. Yaru, please go eat. Please eat, baby girl, please eat. Okay, so if you want to sing in a language, can we get another round of applause for Yaru? What you want to think about though is when you're singing another language, one of the best things I can recommend, take your source material and slow it down. When I say source material, here's a thing to note about Vocaloid songs. Do not use Vocaloid as your source material. Do not. Miku will not save you here. Miku, no. You listen to a cover from a native Japanese speaker. Slow it down and try speaking the words first. Then sing them at a reduced tempo, and then bring that tempo back up, okay? So, can we speak just this first line, the you head, biko, ikumaini, just on that rhythm, speak it with me, ready? You head, biko, next section. How? Something to think about. What makes music interesting, especially in these pop songs, in these songs where there's a lot of repetition, is how they differ, okay? Something you want to think about if you were practicing a song is what is different between the beginning and the next part. Where do we transition registers? Do we transition registers? Do you think we transition registers in this next section?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say so. We're starting to work our way up to maybe a more, upper mix. We're still not in our head voice, but we're starting to get there, okay? So can we sing just the first line of this section right here? Very good. Now when we get to this last section, what register are we in here? This one is like very much. And we're starting to get into that head voice. Left side, right side. It's kind of that head mix. Try and sing it, but feel it in kind of your head, right in your brain. Left side, right side. Your turn.
Left side, right side.
Oh my God, that was beautiful. I love it. So I don't know. Are they gonna yell at me for like not staying on time? I hope they don't, because we only have 2 minutes left. But I'm gonna check. They haven't said anything. Oh, someone's typing. I will not yell at you. Thank you. That's so basic. Okay. Can we sing King? Can we sing King before we head out? I know we need to like really dissect it, but I do think that's the big thing though. That's the big thing. It's thinking about these things, asking yourself these questions when you pick a song to cover or when you work on it, singing consciously. Do we want to try singing this together? Do you want to sing King?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Right. So, ready? We're gonna sing together. I'm gonna do this choir style. Okay? I got my hands up. I don't have my baton. I don't have my baton at school. We're gonna start on the you. 1, 2, ready, and sing. You hey, no, you mighty, you hey, no, you hey, so she can she can baby, she can I want to make it proud of people sing King. I want to become King. Mark that one down for the books, baby. We are now coming towards the end of our time together, which is very lame and very not cool. Also, I just saw the chat in the channel. Okay, thank you guys. I see the little more. Sorry, I have ADHD. My well-being is like an overdrive right now. So, we are nearing the end of our time together, which makes me very, very sad. But I do have some things before we head out. So, if you have questions, I know I just threw like a bunch of information at you here. I'm gonna apologize, but I'm gonna show more. There we go. So, if you have questions, I know I just threw a ton of information at you, and you want to ask, now is the time to do so. If you would like to ask them in person, you may do that. But if you would like to ask them in the Discord, I put the Discord thing up there for you. If you're not already in the Discord, I'd be kind of distracted right now. But that's the little invite thing that they gave me. But does anybody have any questions they would like to ask? I see a hand in, oh God, this is weird to do virtually. If you have a question, can you like come up to the mic? Just because I'm like,
So sorry.
I don't know if there's people on like the other side.
Shove it over here.
Thank you. By the way, your fit is immaculate.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, so what's your question?
Would you say that like voice acting and singing could go hand in hand with the way you are speaking, with a singing voice?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a lot of times in vocal lessons, I will tell students to voice act, okay? Because a lot of times, especially as a VTuber, part of your singing voice might be voice acting. That's the thing, is we talked about not being in our nose. Well, for some of those really idle anime voices, you have to be in your nose, okay? That is the classical way of thinking, but this is not entirely all classical, okay? It's okay to try different things. It's okay to sing in the nyans. It's okay to sing in the weird, funky registers. Voice acting and singing as VTubers go hand in hand. So, is there a classical way of doing things? Is that what I was trained in? Absolutely. But, take it with a grain of salt. If you find that singing all the way in your nose exemplifies your character, do what you think is best for you, your voice, and your character. Does that answer your question? Yes. Cool. All right. Any other questions? My man's in the back.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, yeah, thanks so much for like seeing a little bit of red earlier because I love Cali. Yeah.
I'm hoping to cover that soon. I'm just busy.
Yeah. So my question, like at what point does a beginner, try to like find a vocal coach, trainer, teacher? Because my memories of choir were being like dogged by this, and yeah, it's great, but like I still feel like I have a lot to like learn and relearn and things like that. So at what point does a beginner, reach out to one, and how do you find one?
So there's no standard practice for like when you should. The only time I would say there was a standard practice is a lot of times people will try to enroll like very small children into vocal lessons, and I have to tell them no because your voice changes so rapidly at that rate. If you are an adult learner though, whatever time you feel ready. Okay, don't feel like there's a set of prerequisites that you have to meet before you find vocal help. If you feel like you cannot be pitched, don't let that stop you because a good vocal coach will work with you where you're at. If a vocal coach is like shaming you, if they're saying like you should know this, run. Because that's not what singing is about. Unfortunately, in the classical music community, which is where I come from, there's a lot of elitism in vocal music, and that's kind of why I do what I do and why I'm such a freaking goofball while I teach. Is because I want to tear down that elitism. I want people to feel safe singing. I want people to feel like they can ask questions, like they can mess up. I tell my 5th graders this. I tell the VTubers I teach the same thing. Embrace your mistakes, okay? So as far as how to find a vocal coach, I'm just gonna still put that there. But actually though, there are plenty of ways to find a vocal coach. You can find, a lot of times, go to your local music store if you would like to have lessons in person. A lot of times, music teachers will rent out a room there and you can find someone to teach you. Don't be afraid to look online. There's lots of great online teachers if that's more your style. And that's, how I do my studio, and I do everything online. But yeah, don't ever be afraid to reach out. The right time to feel ready. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Any more questions? Are we good?
I think we're good.
Alright, so, before I go, I would like to can we give a big round of applause? Oh my gosh, my face is blocking. That is so rude. I'm gonna just, there we go. A big round of applause to all my students who came out and did this. All of them have been such a delight to teach. I am so privileged to have been able to work with these people, and all of them have come so far, and I cannot be any more proud of them. Their links are all in here. I will be dropping this presentation in the Discord if you want to keep notes and whatnot. If you want to have that for your resources, I will be dropping that. But all their links are in there as well. And then finally, hi. Hi. It's me. Okay, so no tap though. When people were like coming in at the beginning, I was typing and then I accidentally pressed that button and I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my god, everyone just saw me. Everyone just saw me lose my mind. So, my name is Evie. Evie Games on Twitter and Twitch. And I write you out as an old shooting. It was kind of a on YouTube. If you scan this QR code, this is my application for Summer Lesson. So here's the rundown. I'm a public school teacher and 5 to 8 slots during the school year. During the summer, because we don't pay teachers over the summer. During the summer, I do this full time. I do VTuber voice lessons full time. So I have a ton of slots open. If you scan that QR code, it'll link you to my form for you to fill out the form for lessons. There's a little question at the very end. It's like, anything else you want me to know? Tell me you came to my panel. Tell me you were at OffKai, and you will have priority in getting your lesson slot as well as 20% off of your first lesson. But yeah, I think I'm looking at my PowerPoint. I think that's all I have. I'm really not on the screen for the everyone's You'll see but thank you all so much. You're really wonderful. I